When longtime Mavericks owner Mark Cuban sold the team in December 2023, fans were initially hopeful. Sure, there were rumors swirling about potential changes, maybe new branding or a splashy front office hire. But nobody expected a total gut job. Enter Patrick Dumont, the newly minted governor of the Dallas Mavericks, the man who supposedly wields every critical decision-making power for the franchise. From day one, Dumont's reign has been peppered with controversy. At first, it was small stuff. Whispers about whether he'd move the franchise to Las Vegas, and accusations that he was looking for ways to slash spending. But things reached a fever pitch the moment he orchestrated a trade that sent Luka Doncic packing. Suddenly, local fans who'd once proudly worn Luka Magic t-shirts were so enraged they showed up at games with homemade signs reading "Fire Nico" and "GM Nico Harrison Must Go." Security personnel wasted no time removing these protesters from their seats. That only fanned the flames. Social media lit up with clips of fans being ejected, the hashtag number #FireNico started trending, and YouTube exploded with video after video decrying the new direction of the Mavericks. If Dumont thought he could quietly reshape the franchise, he was in for a rude awakening. And if you think fans were only angry about Luka's departure, just wait until you hear what Dumont said next. Let's rewind for a second. Luka Doncic wasn't just any star. He was, by most accounts, a generational talent who carried Dallas to the NBA Finals last season. Still just 25, he had already racked up all NBA honors, jaw-dropping statistics, and a highlight reel that left seasoned analysts shaking their heads. Fans believed he was the chosen one to bring multiple championships to a city still in love with memories of Dirk Nowitzki hoisting that 2011 Larry O'Brien trophy. So when news broke of a deal sending Luka to the Los Angeles Lakers, the basketball world collectively gasped. In return, Dallas received an aging and injury-prone Anthony Davis, a young player named Max Christie, plus a single future first-round pick. Not exactly the blockbuster haul you'd expect for a superstar with years left in his prime. The immediate outcry was deafening. Talk radio in Dallas hammered the front office for days. ESPN ran segments questioning whether this was one of the worst trades in modern NBA history. And fans? They lined the streets outside the arena, protesting, chanting Dumont's name with vitriol, and accusing the new ownership group of sabotaging the team. But as irate as people were, the biggest blow hadn't even landed yet. Because just when fans were prepared to at least hear the front office's explanation, Patrick Dumont opened his mouth and turned the outrage dial up to 11. In an attempt to quell the growing unrest, Dumont gave a sit-down interview to a local sports reporter. You'd think he'd try to win fans over with a humble or measured explanation, maybe talk about the future, a long-term plan, or the possibility that Luka wanted out. Instead, Dumont took aim at Luka's character and work ethic, without naming him directly. He started comparing his vision of a true competitor to NBA legends like Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Kobe Bryant, and, oddly enough, Shaquille O'Neal. Then he added a dig that many perceived as a direct swipe at Luka. If you don't have a single-minded focus on winning, you don't belong on the Mavericks. Those words echoed like a gunshot through the Dallas sports community. It wasn't just that Dumont called out Luka's effort, it was the way he did it. By praising Shaq's work ethic and referencing the unstoppable dedication of old-school icons, it suggested he considered Luka a lazy, self-absorbed problem child. Fans who'd faithfully watched Luka pour his heart and soul into the franchise were stunned. Many pointed out the irony of calling Shaq a paragon of daily discipline, given Shaq's well-documented issues with conditioning and off-season lifestyle choices. To add salt to the wound, Dumont never once mentioned Dirk Nowitzki, the homegrown hero who's immortalized in statue form right outside the Mavericks arena. It felt like a blatant disregard for Dallas's proud heritage. One scorching hot take on social media declared, "Not only does he not understand our star, he doesn't even understand our history." But that interview was only half the bombshell. The other half came when Dumont doubled down on his choice of general manager, Nico Harrison, a figure who's quickly become just as polarizing among fans as the new owner himself. Nico Harrison arrived in Dallas with a resume that included top-level roles at Nike. But it turns out not all of his experiences there were glowing successes. Reports surfaced recalling the infamous Nike pitch to Stephen Curry, where a slide deck had Kevin Durant's name accidentally left on it, and the presenter mispronounced Curry's name as Stephen. That pitch was widely considered the final straw in Nike, losing Curry to a competitor. Critics now say that fiasco was run by none other than Nico Harrison. Now, in Dallas, Harrison has found himself at the center of a similarly high-stakes controversy, the trading away of Luka Doncic. Rumor has it the tension between Luka and the GM reached a boiling point when Harrison demanded more discipline. both in Luka's diet and his attitude toward NBA referees. Luka, known for his competitive fire and sometimes testy interactions on the court, might have bristled at the critique. According to insiders, Harrison also balked at giving Luka a supermax extension worth around $315 million. Believing Doncic's body and playstyle would lead to more frequent injuries down the road. That's when fans started labeling Harrison as the cheap puppet of the new ownership group. Many suspect the real motive behind ditching Luka was to avoid paying out a massive new contract and incurring a hefty luxury tax bill. Whether or not that's true, the optics are grim. You had one of the top 3 offensive machines in the league, some say top 2, and you shipped him off for a questionable return because you doubted his future. The Dallas faithful are convinced that if a franchise is truly dedicated to winning, you don't let a player of Luka's caliber slip away, period. The Dallas fan base is no stranger to heartbreak. They've endured mediocre stretches before, even with Luka on the roster. But nothing prepared them for the emotional punch of watching their golden child sent packing. Outside the arena, massive crowds formed. They held up signs saying, "Fire Nico" and "Bring Luka back." Some even attempted to wear t-shirts featuring Dumont's face with a big red slash across it. Though security was quick to confiscate or ban anything that seemed overtly critical of ownership. At the games themselves, the tension was palpable. During timeouts, Jumbotron karaoke segments became impromptu stages for protest. Fans disguised themselves as goofy entertainers, only to slip in messages about the front office. Almost immediately, cameras cut away and security staff escorted them from the building. These videos went viral, further feeding the narrative that the new regime is quick to silence dissent. One particularly dramatic moment came when a longtime season ticket holder, known to lead chants in the arena, stood up and yelled, "You ruined our team!" while pointing directly at Dumont. The crowd roared in support before security hurried him out. It was a symbolic flashpoint, showing how willing fans were to publicly risk being thrown out just to voice their anger. Local sports radio and national podcasts turned the situation into a rallying cry. Let the fans speak! Some commentators argued that silencing supporters would backfire, turning a frustrated fan base into a hostile one. And if there's one surefire way to lose money and credibility in pro sports, it's alienating your die-hard loyalists. To truly grasp why this is such a gut punch for Dallas, consider how rare it is for an NBA team to seamlessly transition from one superstar to another. After Dirk Nowitzki's legendary run, finding Luka Doncic felt like a lightning strike of good fortune. Most teams wait decades for a franchise-altering talent. Just look at the New York Knicks, who've been searching for a championship-level cornerstone since the 1970s, or the Cleveland Cavaliers, who suffered through more than 3 decades of mediocrity until LeBron James arrived. A handy statistic shows how these droughts can stretch on for entire generations. Milwaukee went 38 years between Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Giannis Antetokounmpo. Philadelphia had a long gap between Allen Iverson's peak and Joel Embiid's rise to MVP contention. Even the storied Los Angeles Lakers occasionally went through painful dips, despite their glamorous market. For Dallas to have a star in Luka so soon after Dirk's retirement was considered a once-in-a-lifetime stroke of luck. Now that golden era might be cut short, prompting the question, did the Mavericks just slam the door shut on another potential championship window? The fear is that they'll enter the same long, dark tunnel so many franchises know all too well. And the anger stems from the belief that this was self-inflicted, that the team wasn't forced to lose Luka, they actively chose to ship him off. If Dallas is already in a downward spiral, the rest of the NBA is not standing still. Rumors are swirling that more superstars could be on the move, especially if their current teams fail to meet expectations. Names like Trae Young and Kevin Durant keep popping up in insider conversations, and fans across the league sense a major reshuffling might be coming. Why does this matter to Mavericks fans? Because every time a big name becomes available, front offices scramble to assemble the best trade package. But with Luka gone, Dallas no longer has the lure of an all-world sidekick or the dynamic synergy that free agents crave. Instead, the team's brand is tarnished, its leadership is in question, and many players might view the Mavericks as a dysfunctional franchise more concerned about cost-cutting or random controversies than winning championships. Meanwhile, Los Angeles is already abuzz with excitement. The Lakers, pairing Luka with LeBron James, however briefly, or seeing a post-LeBron era led by Luka, may have just set themselves up for another dynasty. And that possibility stings Dallas fans even more. Every highlight reel featuring Luka in purple and gold feels like a fresh wound, a daily reminder of what they let slip away. So where does all this leave the Dallas Mavericks? Sitting on a powder keg of uncertainty. The new governor, Patrick Dumont, insists that he isn't relocating the team or pinch pennying on the roster. GM Nico Harrison claims that losing Luka was a sacrifice made for the franchise's long-term good. But talk is cheap, especially when you ask the thousands of fans who were ejected from their seats simply for voicing their frustration. From a purely basketball perspective, trading a 25-year-old superstar in his prime is almost unprecedented. You'd expect a treasure trove in return. Several elite players, multiple first-round picks, or at least a clearer path to contention. Instead, Dallas gambled on a fragile star, a bench warmer, and a single draft pick. All signs point to a front office that believes it can retool in the short term. Yet many outside observers see it as organizational self-sabotage. So ask yourself, is this the kind of team you'd want to root for? If history is any indicator, letting go of a superstar at his peak rarely ends well. And for Dallas, the specter of another decades-long championship drought looms large. Whether they can outrun that ghost depends on decisions yet to be made, and a fan base that may or may not stick around to see how it all plays out.